The first computer I used with a mouse was some kind of Macintosh at a local town hall exhibition. The only thing I remember about that experience was painting on the screen, albeit in black and white, with this weird wired one button thing. At the time I owned and used a ZX Spectrum, so getting to try something like this completely blew my mind. Here was a whole new way to interact with the screen, to manipulate images and interact with the computer and its operating system. My next computer was a Commodore 64, and the only peripheral I had with that was a psychedelic joystick like this one. There were mice available for the 64 by that time, but I was a very late adopter to that machine, and I had no interest in anything but video games. Roll on a couple of Christmases, and my next computer, in probably 1990, was an Amiga 500, and with that, the future arrived. It had a floppy disk drive. Before this, I'd only ever loaded any software via tape decks, annoyingly slow and unreliable on the ZX Spectrum, and even more painfully slow on the much more powerful C64. 3.5-inch floppy disks felt like they were loading huge programs instantly, and that wasn't the best thing. The best thing for me was this amazing device. I could finally point and click on things. The Amiga Tank Mouse is an iconic shape. At the time when I first set eyes on it, I'd never seen a better mouse, or very many mice at all really. It had double the buttons compared to that weird Apple mouse. Somehow it plugged straight into a 9-pin port, just like all the joysticks I'd used up to that point. And it had this super dense, heavy rubber ball inside. For a while I thought this was the best thing ever. The future had arrived. Time passed and more ergonomic shaped mice were released from third parties, and it wasn't long before I upgraded to something more like this. Probably shoving my old Tank Mouse in a drawer, never to be seen again. Decades have passed, and the Tank Mouse is once again something I desire. Before I started this Commodore themed charity event, I didn't have a single original Amiga mouse. Now, I seem to have quite a few. There are a few different shapes and types here, even my Microsoft IntelliMouse lurking at the back there, which is actually the mouse I normally use with my Amiga, but plugged into the brilliant Mouster. But the charity machines I intend to sell in October will need a power supply, a video cable, some software, and especially a mouse. In this video I'll be upgrading one of these donated Mises for the amazing crystal purple and gold Amiga 500. You can see the build video for that in the corner of your screen. Many of these mouses were kindly donated by supporters of the channel. There are a couple from Colcuz, and some from Nothing New Here, and various others. Thanks for your help everyone. This Squick mouse has a bad left mouse button, so that one might be going to the back of the line. This quick shot seems to be intact, but this shape is not what I need. This Tank Mouse came with the Mini A500. It's a USB mouse and has modern new parts. The button clicks are nice and soft feeling. This original Tank Mouse is what I've been using to test. The buttons didn't work at first, so I replaced them with cheap switches and they feel terrible. It's the loudest click imaginable in a quite plasticky feeling hollow shell. These are Omron switches. They're super popular in modern gaming mices. The click is positive but quiet, and it doesn't hurt your fingers to push. This is my stock of cheap micro switch buttons and the type I use to repair the other Tank Mouse. They're fine for building projects and things, but for a mouse, these are not the way to go. The difference between these and the Omron ones is night and day. This Tank Mouse must have had a sticker on it. There's a very uneven yellowing to the case, but I think this is a good candidate for the upgrade today. This package came with the Crystal Amiga 500 case from the excellent A1200.net. I have a part 2 video coming up on the Crystal Amiga 500 with all of the final bits tied up. Keep an eye out for that one. This is a Crystal Tank Mouse replacement case, a very weird thing indeed. It feels satisfying to pop the ball out of a proper mouse again, a skill you never forget. A nice simple teardown with just 4 screws holding everything together. It helps that the inside ones are black too, saves me keeping them separate. Comparing the old and new cases, I can see there are 1 or 2 small differences. On this top half, for instance, there's an extra piece of plastic between the buttons here, and another round bit here, probably to give it some extra strength, I expect. I didn't test this mouse before taking it apart, but feeling these buttons, I would be very surprised if they still worked. There's almost no movement. Single-sided boards are very easy to work with, but just to make this go extra smoothly, I'm adding a dab of fresh leaded solder to the joints. I imagine this is leaded solder anyway, but this will still help things to flow better. And as expected, the buttons pop right out. These Omrons are so nice, I can't help but press them. Now I need to clean up the rollers and the sensors. There are some plastic tabs on this side of the board. Pressing these in frees the black plastic section from the other side. The encoder wheels will need a good clean to remove dust and grime, as well as the rollers themselves. I'm using 70% IPA or rubbing alcohol. I like this stuff as the 30% that isn't alcohol is distilled water and doesn't cause any harm or residue. Using it slightly diluted like this means it doesn't immediately evaporate when you're trying to clean something, and it helps to wash away the dirt too. I'm taking it apart as much as I can. This roller tensioner part comes away easily and is hiding some grottiness. The other rollers, I can't see how they can be freed. The plastic looks like it might be welded or glued together, and I don't want to risk prying it apart. I can get to all the parts I need to anyway, so it's not a problem. I wipe around the emitters and sensors to remove any built-up dirt, and a clean between them too. There's a load of factory flux left on this PCB, and with this going into the transparent case, I can't be having that. I have some proper PCB cleaner sent to me by RepairyMark Repairface, a scrub with a toothbrush, and it comes up shiny and new. Next I need to replace any grease I removed. This is silicone grease and ideal for this purpose, and safe to use on plastics. I keep a pack of bamboo skewers in my workshop. They are useful for all kinds of things, like this and applying glue. The only thing spoiling this now is the grotty old cable. Some glass cleaner and elbow grease will soon sort that out. Or maybe not. Okay then, how about some of that 70% alcohol? Yep, that did the trick. Came up like new. Okay, that's it all back together. Now, how does it feel? Oh, the mouse buttons don't click. What did I do wrong? Aha! The legs of the buttons I soldered in here are too long on the other side of this board, pushing it up slightly. A quick snip. Now, how does that feel? It still doesn't work on one side. Taking it apart and inspecting the parts that push down on the buttons, I can see there's a small piece of plastic on one side that looks like it might be an extra bit, compared to the other side, which is nice and flat. Being super careful, I take a small file and take some of the end of that plastic leg off. Putting it back together, the button is still fully stuck down. So I repeat this process, taking small amounts off until perfect. All this needs now is a ball. It's been a long time since I did this, but cleaning a mouse ball is, I think, one of those super satisfying jobs. This time Windex and a microfiber cloth. Look at the difference. And there we go. A perfect, clean and grippy mouse ball. It will stay like this for all of 5 minutes, if memory serves. Something doesn't feel quite right. Ah, yes, the skates. Right, it's time to put this to the test. The movement feels great, and the clicks of both buttons are perfect. Not too soft, but not too clicky. This mouse will be paired up with the Crystal Purple and Gold Amiga 500 and auctioned off to raise money for the befriending scheme on the 19th of October. I'll be hosting a 12-hour live stream, and as well as the Crystal Amiga, there will be every microcomputer ever made by Commodore sold to raise enough money to buy the befriending scheme some miniature donkeys. Keep an eye out for future videos between now and then. I have lots of computers to get ready, and I'll be making videos on as many of them as I can to help raise awareness of the event. As well as that, I'll be making a video closer to the time to showcase the items for sale and to go into a bit more detail about the befriending scheme itself, particularly the farm where the donkeys will eventually live. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye. That's not the remote. That's the remote.